folks. I was looking at my calendar yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and I'm on the same timetable that all of our presidents-elect are. And I had what for me was a very terrifying realization. I happened to notice that it is, believe it or not, 10 weeks out from July 1st of 2021. And of course, July 1st of 2021 is an important time for everyone on this call, because that is when our respective terms begin. So I started to think about the fact that we are 10 weeks away from that critical date. And I decided that what I would do is base my comments today around 10 tips for your last 10 weeks as president-elect. And this doesn't necessarily have to be something that you take one a week. These are just 10 things that I think it would be beneficial for you to do sometime between now and July 1. And these are presented in no particular order. First thing that I'd like you to do is I would like you to think about this event that we're at right now, our district assembly. And I would like you to think about our district assembly for 2022. And I don't want you to think about the district assembly for 2022 to suggest sessions for training or how things could have been done better, because guess what? I'm not responsible for planning the 2022 district assembly. That's Bill Durrell. The reason I want you to think about the 2022 district assembly is because in a lot of respects, that's when you're going to be on the downslide of your club presidency. The event is almost always in late April, so you'll be a week or two away from, or no, you'll be about a month rather into that final quarter of the year. And it's not to say that there aren't things that you can't still accomplish in the last quarter of the year, but by and large, you'll be putting a bow on your presidency at that point. So today, think about District Assembly 2022. Think about where you want your club to be at that time. And as with any good plan, plan and think backwards from where you want to be when we're all at this meeting 12 months from now. Tying into that, yes, he's going to talk about setting club goals again. Probably some of you are sick of hearing me say this, but it is of some importance that you do go up to Rotary Club Central and you look at those goals that are available for you to set. Do keep in mind that, as we discussed at PETS in our district breakout sessions, it is setting and completing at least half of those goals that is your number one criterion for establishing or attaining rather the Rotary citation during your year as president. So please do go to Rotary Club Central, review those goals, enter those goals, even if you do not believe that you are going to try to achieve the Rotary citation. And I, again, would encourage all of you to try to achieve that. Even if you're not going to pursue the citation, at the very least, please give us a membership goal and please give us an annual fund giving goal, because that data is of critical importance for our district and our zone for their planning for the year. Again, we'd like to get as many of those goals in by July 1 as possible, though, you know, also I'm not going to have a conniption fit if it goes a couple of weeks into the Rotary year. The other thing that I would encourage you to do, number 3, is inventory the projects that your club does. I remember when I was an incoming club president, I asked a couple of my predecessors, hey, is there a comprehensive document that shows everything our club does in a year? And despite the fact that our club is a large club and it is generally in my opinion, well-run club, the answer to that question is no. So if your club does not have a comprehensive document that lists everything you do during the course of a year and every committee that your club has, I would encourage you to collaborate with your current board and put one together. And this is going to do a couple of different things. The first thing it's going to do is make sure that there aren't any surprises. Particularly if you're in a larger club, the last thing you want to have happen is 3 months into your tenure as president, long-standing member Bob Smith comes up to you and says, hey, when are we going to start promoting the Rotary Steak Fry fundraiser? And for you to say to this long-standing member, we have a steak fry fundraiser? So again, eliminates the surprises, gets everything on your calendar if you try to put together that comprehensive document right now. The other reason that I encourage you to do this is it goes back to a comment that I made in our very first breakout session during PETS in March. My challenge to you as club presidents-elect is to do absolutely nothing for the sole reason that your club has always done it that way. I want you to evaluate every program, and when I say evaluate, it doesn't have to be a 20-hour study with a full committee, but at least give it a good faith look over and say to yourselves, is this really still of benefit to our club and to our community? And if the answer to that question is no, figure out how you can tweak that event to make it relevant. And if it doesn't look like there's a good way for it to be relevant, maybe it's time for that program to go by the wayside so that you can devote your resources to something that will actually be of more benefit to your club and your community. The fourth thing that I would encourage you to do in these next 10 weeks is, if you were at some of our sessions earlier, you heard about our club grant program, which is, again, allocating some of the funds that we receive from the Rotary Foundation to local projects organized by your clubs. This is the time to determine what that club grant project is, because the applications are due very quickly after July 1. You only have a matter of weeks once your term actually starts to finalize that application. And one of the worst things that you can do, in my opinion, is wait until after you assume office to even think about what that grant project will be. So I would get that on your radar now, develop the project now, maybe even complete the application now, and then hold on to it to submit after July 1. Item number 5. I would recommend, if you've not already done this or not already thought about doing it, meet with the people who will be the board of directors for your club during your term as Rotary president. I have talked to some presidents-elect over the years who are hesitant to do this because they're afraid that it will be perceived as, somehow stepping on the toes of the individual who's currently your club president. In my opinion, particularly if you talk about it with your current president, you coordinate it with your club president, I don't see any toe stepping whatsoever going on here. This isn't trying to usurp the authority of the club during what's left of the current year. This is about planning, and this is about making sure that, again, you're not developing the plan once you're in office. You've got it figured out beforehand, and you're implementing the plan before you're in office. And in particular, I would really recommend, if it's possible, a budget meeting before the beginning of the year so that you can pass your budget at your first board meeting after July 1, because without that, guiding document, you really don't know what you're doing. And I would also recommend that one of those meetings be about those club goals that I like talking about so much, because really, as was mentioned at PETS, The club goals should not be set unilaterally. The club goals should be set with some consensus from those who are guiding your club. And when I say meet with your board before July 1, I know there are some people on this call who would say in response to that, you know, my club's got 10 or 12 members. We really don't have a board. Well, I'll tell you what Jane Becker from the Jacksonville Sunrise Rotary Club with 12 members did. Jane Becker basically made her entire 12-member club her board. And they had a meeting, I believe it was this past Tuesday, where they sat down as a committee of the whole and they talked about their goals for the year. So this is something to do regardless of your club size. Item number 6, Matt Mahala, Crystal West, Bill Kanake, Phil Fleming, they'll all be happy to hear me mention this. Sometime between now and July 1, schedule a call with your assistant governor. Your assistant governor will be or should be your best friend during your year as club president. I'll be your second best friend, but make your assistant governor your best friend because they truly are your liaison between your local club and the greater world of Rotary, and they have a wealth of knowledge and wealth of resources to share with you. And to the extent that you may want some knowledge that they don't have, they've at the very least been trained to know where to ask the questions and where to look to help you find it. And they are all more than willing to do so. They all love their jobs, and they, if I can speak on their behalf, you know, they all think it's one of the greatest roles in Rotary, and they're glad to serve in it. Matt is shrugging his shoulders a little bit. You know, he's always the exception to the rule. Number 7, I mentioned I'm your second best friend, and I would really like to meet with you because I'm your second best friend. So if you haven't already, please do try to confirm the date for your official club visit. I have on a couple of different occasions now circulated my proposed club visit schedule, and I will circulate it once more after we have concluded this meeting today. I think I have gotten confirmation back from about a third of the clubs in the district so far, but I'd really like to go from a third to 100%. And if I don't have that confirmation, I might just show up at your club one day and you'll have no idea about it. So please do look at that, and assistant governors, please follow up with the clubs as well. Item number 8, talk to the old guard and talk to the new guard. I mentioned having a couple of formal meetings with your board, but I think it also behooves us to have some informal meetings as well. So my recommendation to you is go ahead and, you know, at every Rotary meeting I've ever been to, and it's a matter of scale depending on the size of the club, but if it's a smaller club, there's always that one member, or if it's a larger club, there's always that one table of the members who've got quite a bit of silver behind their ears, and they've been there for a while, and they know how that club should run, gosh darn it. And usually they don't have any hesitation about telling you how that club should be run. My suggestion is go out and actively engage those people, and, you know, take one of them out to lunch or two of them out to lunch or out to coffee and have a good in-depth conversation with them. Now, granted, I did say earlier on, you shouldn't do anything in your club because it's the way that you've always done it. And sometimes those members I'm referring to are the people who are committed to the way that it's always been done. But that doesn't mean they don't have good perspective. That doesn't mean they don't have good history. And that doesn't mean that you can't glean a lot of knowledge from having that conversation. But I also recommend talking to the new guard. Just like you're going to take those couple of experienced members out to lunch or out to coffee, if you've got members that have joined in the last 6 months or the last 12 months, I would encourage you to do the same thing with a couple of them, because they've got the fresh eyes. You know, they will see things that they think are working or not working that maybe you've not thought of because you've been engaged with Rotary so long, and they'll be a nice counterpoint to the more senior Rotarians who I mentioned earlier. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you make it the same lunch with the old guard and the new guard, because the old guard can overpower, the new guard can become intimidated, but getting both of those perspectives, I think, is very valuable. Item number 9, review the Learning Center. Today, our district assembly is the last formalized training that we have between now and July 1. But there's a chance that as you're planning in these last 10 weeks, you might say to yourself, wow, there is a Rotary-related topic that I feel is just a huge blind spot for me. I've been through all this training, but I feel like I still don't understand how the annual fund of the foundation works. Or I don't know what I'm going to do if somebody comes to me with a conflict between two members that might cause one of them to leave the club. If you realize you've got that blind spot, number one, kudos to you, because you've got some perspective that other folks lack. But number two, since we don't have any more formalized training, I would encourage you to go to Rotary.org, the Rotary International website, and look up a section of the Rotary International website that is referred to as the Learning Center. And once you've logged into the Learning Center, you will find all manner of different webinars and other online courses that have been developed by Rotary International that will tell you about all different aspects of Rotary. And that's a way that you can continue your education beyond the formal training that is going to come to a close today. So I strongly recommend checking out the Learning Center. If there's a subject that you want to know more about that you cannot reach through the Learning Center, then guess what? That's when you go to your best friend in Rotary. That's when you go to that assistant governor, and they'll help point you in the right direction. And then my 10th and final tip for the next 10 weeks before you take office is take a weekend off. Please, I mean, Rotary is a big part of your life, but hopefully Rotary is not your entire life, as much as it might feel that way for some of you sometimes. Certainly feels that way for me on occasion. But we all need a break, and we all need time to regroup. We all need time for our mental health. So I would strongly encourage you between now and July 1 that at least one weekend you actively plan to do absolutely nothing related to Rotary and not even think about it to the extent that you can. And that in the long run will probably make you a better club president. So with that, 10 weeks, 10 tips for those